So the main important thing about our survival as humanity, as human race, is all of a sudden become the silent partner to the survival of our humanity or our race or our species. It's a bit sad because when you want to think about the most important thing that is keeping you alive, the most important thing that is multiplying you, hence the basic commandment that says be fruitful and multiply, it's just something that nobody really thinks about. But how are we going to be fruitful and multiply and not talk about this? How is that going to work? So I believe when people look at the title, Beautiful Sex, oh, how else is it going to be if not beautiful as a whole? Something that is multiplying you. When something multiplies, increases, expands you, what other description are you going to give it to it than beautiful? Akwaba simply means welcome. Michia obi biara Yankopon Sharon Obadi and Sambo Humban non Sharon Ahon. The Michia obi biara simply means I greet you all, and you are welcome to the Melanated Truth. My name is Kojo Bento, I'm your servant, and I'm here to nothing but serve you. But you know, I'm on the red couch. I'm on the red couch. You know, every time we come here, we talk about socials. And last week I announced that Thursdays will be social Thursdays, that we talk about everything happening in our society. And I think the best place to start from is love, sex, and all of these things. And this beautiful sex is beautiful, and unless you want to look at it from so many perverse dimensions, then of course you're not going to see any beauty of it. But I think sex is beautiful, my thoughts anyways. I don't know about yours, but I think it's beautiful. And by the time I'm done, I'm not going to finish today, let me put it out there. But I'm sure by the time I'm done with this subject, beautiful sex, you would understand the reason why I am saying I personally think sex is beautiful. Everything that exists on the face of this earth has two dimensions to it. Every single thing. I'm not just limiting it to human beings, but everything that exists. You can talk about the rocks, the sea, everything, the rivers, the trees, the animals, the planetaries. Everything that exists, it comes with both dimensions, two dimensions. And this is basically the masculine principle or energy and the feminine principle or energy. We have feminine stones and we have masculine stones. We have feminine metals and we have masculine metals. Everything that exists. And this might shock a lot of people, but majority of the time, the feminine spirit or principle is always stronger than the masculine principle. So in totality, nothing can exist without its opposite side or reflective side. Nothing can exist. Everything that moves on the face of this dimension or in the universe, in the astral world, exists of two balances. It cannot work, it cannot operate when these two things are not involved. So these two dimensions is such that it would constantly attract each other. The way it's made, there's nothing else that it can do but just to attract each other. Every time you see one of these principles or energies going the way of the same dimension, then it means there's something definitely wrong. Because the Creator designed it in such a way that the two should always come together. The two, well, no matter how you do, the two will always find its way to get together. When the masculine spirit decide to go after the masculine kind, or the feminine spirit decide to go after the feminine kind or energies, then you know there's definitely something wrong. The Creator made it that the two will always find its way home with each other. As a child, before your body blossoms into certain possibilities, the pursuit of executing these possibilities is very minimal. Oh, it is very minute. It doesn't even cross your mind, because your body is still in transition, moving from one physical stage to the other. But until you get to that physical stage where the other department of your body begins to blossom and show forth its abilities and capabilities and its dimensions and majesticness of it, the child's ideology is very limited. You don't pursue after certain things. You don't chase after certain things. Certain things don't even cross your mind until you begin to see certain development come out, leap out of your emotions and manifest itself into your physicality. Then all of a sudden you become aware of yourself. This is when your intelligence begins to get fully, completely taken over by your hormones. Now all of a sudden you used to think about certain things and say certain things, and you used to ask your parents certain questions, and they'd be looking at you like, what are you saying? When I was your age, I wasn't asking these questions. Yes, because at that time, the hormones of the child is not heightened now. So all that the child is exploring is the intelligence, the natural order of things that is already happening in the child. So the child easily syncs with intelligence and is always pursuing on that dimension. But the minute your hormones begin to explore and explode, now all of a sudden, the only thing you think about are the things that are popping up. You immediately begin to focus your mind on the things that matters most, and all of a sudden your conversation changes. Now you are talking about areas that you yourself begin to get very uncomfortable with it. I don't know if most of you are used to this, but I remember when we were kids, you used to see children back outside all the time. I mean, between the ages of 6 all the way to, or 5, 3, all the way to 9, 10, 11, you would often see children back all the time, whether they be male or, I think 11, no, let's calm down. Before 11-year-old watches me and said, no, I wouldn't do that. Let's calm down. To about 9, 10, right? You used to back outside and you just didn't care who was passing by or who was seeing you, especially when it rained. I don't know if any of you did that, but in our part of the world, when it rains, everybody comes outside. And they don't care what they are putting on, what they are wearing. They don't care what they got on. They will just be outside and play in the rain, because it's such a beautiful time of the year where everything cools down and calms down and everything is beautiful, right? But at that time, you don't care who is watching you. You don't really care. You don't care. Some children would even put up everything, and I can remember my sister used to scream at her children like, hey, put it, somebody's coming, hide this away, right? But now, all of a sudden, this child gets to this place where they themselves begin to get shy of their own self. Why? Because the very thing that didn't used to matter all of a sudden is kicking in, and nature is telling you, or your hormones has taken over once again your intelligence. So certain things that didn't have value at all of a sudden is heightened, and you begin to do this. And when somebody close the door, when somebody gets into the bathroom, close, and men will be doing stuff like that. So these are natural things. Naturally, as a human being, these things are going to flow. The fluidity of it is such that you cannot stop it. You are so conscious that every time you stand in the mirror, you check your chest area, you are checking your behind, and you are checking certain things. When you dress up, you make, especially our sisters, when they dress up. You remember when you were growing up, when you were in your teens, when some things are not standing well, you put in certain things. Some put oranges. Some put oranges in certain areas because certain maids are showing off certain. All of a sudden, that is what becomes the most important thing. You know, especially when it begins to develop. Girls, I heard that girls even compare themselves and all of that. One thing you do forget though, this thing you are paying attention to is going to fall very soon and not even have significance anymore like it used to. Not in, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. I remember growing up, you know how young girls are mates in schools and stuff like that don't even want to, they cover everything up, right? Now all of a sudden the same people get pregnant and give birth, and now right in the public domain, the same thing they used to protect, right? And they just feed the child. But why would a teenager or a young person growing up think about these things? Anyways, because your hormones has captured the intelligence aspect of your brain. And now you are allowing these things that are growing and has expiration dates to it begin to decide and think for you. Let me come to the fellas, right? Let me come to the men. Oh, I'm coming on you, brothers. You know how all of a sudden you used to grow up and you saw everybody like you. I mean, have you ever seen young kids fight each other? You see a boy fight with a girl and it's like it's the same sex fighting. the boy is not even paying attention, or the boy just forget about the fact that this is actually a lady. You know, that time you are too busy trying to do all of that. Then all of a sudden you get to a certain stage in your life, and now the only thing that you see about a woman is either the chest area or the behind. You're looking at every bump, and now all of a sudden you're making a lifelong decision, a lifetime decision based on a bump. But think about it. I'm excited a lot because these are the very things we used to see growing up, and that always bothered me though. Like, I always wondered, what is it about these bumps that men go after? You'll be amazed at the number of accidents that men have had because of bumps. I mean, bumps, right? Wherever the bump is growing out for, men go crazy just because they've seen a bump, and all of a sudden they lose their senses. You begin to wonder, like, wait a minute. You don't know that you can crash the car and lose your life. That is how all of a sudden powerful now. It doesn't really necessarily become power. It's not like all of a sudden the bomb has gotten some superpowers and is powerful now. No, it's just because your hormones has taken over your intelligence. And once that happens, there is no way you are going to think straight. Now, if you marry a woman, if you go after a woman because the woman looks a type of way or looks in a particular way, what's wrong with you? Are you forgetting that these things have expiration dates to it? And some of us are young women. They be looking at six packs like, oh, I want a guy that has six packs. Well, I'm sorry, I have one pack. No, I'm serious though. Like, these things are fading away. So how can you make a lifelong decision based on things that are fading away? Based on things that are not even lasting? I can challenge you. How many men, how many women, how many young boys, how many young men have ended up in bed just because they saw a bump, just because they saw six packs? It is very easy for young people from the ages of 15, 17, 18, all the way to 23, 24, 25, 28 to easily come to this place where they say, well, I'm in love with him. Well, I'm so much in love with him. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'm so much in love with this young man. And they easily fall in love, right? And they easily get attracted to each other. But it's beautiful though, because at this stage you can easily become one with the opposite person or opposite sex. Easily. Do you know why? Because at that time both sexes are still discovering who they are. They are still finding themselves. They are still trying to understand their body, and they are still trying to understand how all of this thing is going to work, right? So at that stage, there's a lot of room for that person to give to the other. There's a lot of room. Their personality is not solidified. It is not cemented yet. So there are so many. There's so much flexibility around these ages, and they easily go in. They can easily go in and become one with the person. Easily, it just happened. I mean, it's not the same for people from the ages of 30 all the way to 45, 46, 47. Once from 30 to 47 is a different story. They don't easily come into each other. They don't easily accept each other, because by the time you get to 30, your personality has become a solid block. Your personality is cemented. It's become a concrete block now. So it's like when these two are coming together, it's like moving two worlds under the same roof. It's not going to happen. So you see two concrete blocks, their personalities fully blossomed, fully matured, fully aware of themselves, fully aware of who they are. And now you pick these two people and put them together, and you expect that they're going to work. No, they're not going to work. So at that stage, most people go into relationships. I'm still on the subject of sex though. I haven't forgotten. Beautiful sex, I haven't forgotten. But there's certain fundamentals that we got to lay down. So at that stage, it's very difficult for two people to come together, to gel together. It's very difficult because none of them is ready to give in for the other to take over. I mean, and to talk about it, people marry around those ages and expect, well, you think you think you are still a child. No, it's, as a matter of fact, it's the opposite. They're grown now. They are grown now. Whatever behavior, whatever attitude, whatever character that they are presenting now, it's not going to change. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. Because that is the prime of their life. And they built this character over a long period of time. How do you expect that all of a sudden they change within a short space, within a year? Can you change? Can you undo something you've done for 30 years in just a year? No. So oftentimes these two people in this age range from 30 to 47, 48 become difficult, very difficult for them to gel together. Then you move to the 48 and 49 and 50, and that time all the cement blocks begins to fall down. All the concrete walls, they become very liquid again, or very soft again. All their walls have come down, so it's easy for them to come together as well. Anybody after 47, 48, it's easy for you to all of a sudden consider certain things, and you're ready to let go of certain things and certain characters and certain behaviors, and you're ready to accept in, you're ready to let in certain people. But between 30 and 48, no, that's not the story. So if you're looking for love within these areas, you need to do a lot. You need to commit a lot to the relationship, because don't you think that it's just going to happen like that? It is not. Those days are over. It's either you wait, it's either you start too early or you wait too late. You understand? So there's no specific age range to say that, okay, this is the best time not to be in. As a matter of fact, the prime of your life is the worst time to start a love relationship. It's either you start early or you start late. Because in between, you just got to accept people for the way they are. That is why at this place, you don't go in and think that, oh, he's going to change someday. Oh, he's going to change very soon. Well, I got news flash for you. He's not going to change in this space. Unless you wait for another 20 years when he's about 48, getting to 50, then you can think of he changing. But that period, that prime, oh no, the change is not happening. Now let's come to the subject of sex. Sex is an integral part of our being or our nature as living beings. You need to understand that every single thing you see on the face of this earth participates in sex, indulge in sex. Everything. I mean, it's just not done the same way as human beings or other mammals do it, but every single thing that exists on the face of this dimension, some way, somehow, indulge into sex, because it is by this nature that those living species on the face of this earth, or these living species, our species, would multiply itself. That is the only how to reproduce itself. So every single plant, tree, rock, stone, bird, every single thing in this dimension or in this universe indulge in sexual conduct. Sex is a fundamental need of every single living being on the face of this earth. Yes, I said it. It is a need, a necessity. It is not a want. It's just that most people wouldn't want to put sex on their list. As when you talk about the necessities of life, most people would not put sex on it. But it is a need. Every single being needs to have sex. It's not a want, it is a need. If this need is not addressed or spoken about properly, then we're going to have a very unhealthy society to be in. I mean, I know the subject a lot of times, or oftentimes gets a lot of people urgy. A lot of people don't really want to talk about it. But imagine the most important thing to your existence not discussed. When you look around, the reason why society is the way it is today is because the most important thing that is making society is not being addressed. A lot of people feel that society, no, you got to take off the society, you got to take, no. Society is not a living thing. Society is not a place you can go. Show me, where is society? Where is the society? Society is not a place you can go and visit and come back. No. Society is basically human beings coming together to be in one particular area. That becomes the society, that becomes the environment, that develops into culture, right? So the most important thing that is building this society, that is making this culture, that is not spoken about or is not taught, then what kind of culture do you think we're going to have? What kind of society do you think you're going to have? Every single person or every single thing living in the realm, in this realm, on the face of this dimension, is here because of sex. Every single person is here because of sex. If sex was never activated, then we would all be gone by now. The survival of every species is totally dependent on sex. I mean, this is not even an individual affair. This is a whole species. The survival of this species is totally dependent on this very thing that nobody wants to talk about. You should think that this should be the most important thing to be discussed, right? But yet, nobody wants to talk about it because it gets people in their feelings. It gets people uncomfortable because it is branded as nasty. Well, without that, our species is not going to survive. When you ask the question, what is the most important thing in every race, or what is the most important thing in the life of everybody, it will shock you that sex it wouldn't even come to the list. Sex will not make it on anybody's list. But the most important thing is sex, because the very survival of everything you are getting involved, of every business, every establishment, every legacy, Every competition, what if you want to make money? Well, for your information, you are making money because two people decided to indulge in sex, and out of that they produce a seed, and this seed is going to be your next customer. So your next 5 customers, your next 10 customers is all going to be a product of sex. But yet, when we talk about the most important things in our society, the subject of sex will not come on anybody's list. I mean, do you think sex was going to make it to your list if I told you to give me just 5 most important things to your life? But you are here because of sex. For your business to survive, you need sex. You need people to indulge themselves with each other and reproduce. You should understand that the species that you are is always longing to reproduce itself. That is the intelligence that it has. That it has to reproduce itself. This is innate. This is not something. Listen, the first time you had sex, who taught you? Who taught you to do what? This is innate. It's inbuilt. Whether you like it or not, it's part of who you are. Because without it, we are done. Without it, we are gone. So naturally, it yearns the opposite sex. I told you, everything survives on these 2 fundamental forces: the masculine energy or spirit or principle, and the feminine energy or principle. These 2 are always looking for one another. They are always looking for each other. So the need to always be in a place of wanting a man or a woman in your life is normal. It's normal. And I want to say this. It's only sad that human beings have put limitation to this need. And I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything, but human beings are the ones putting limitations to this need with the thing we call marriage. I didn't mean to upset you or offend you, but that is basically the truth. We are the only species in this spectrum that thinks that I have the right to own somebody. That I have the right to make somebody, this is mine, you are mine. No, she is not. No, he is not. Listen, we'll go into that subject later, okay? Let me not get myself into trouble by getting a lot of people being upset with me right now. But that is the reality. You've never seen trees trying to marry each other, or animals trying to marry each other. You see, we treat sex to be a subject of marriage. Sex is not a subject of marriage. You don't gotta marry before you have sex. Tell me, have you ever seen 2 people sleep together and they say, because we are not married, we're not gonna get pregnant? Pregnancy, sex, reproduction has nothing to do with marriage. It is human beings that have made it look like until you marry. Until you marry, it is even a sin. Until you go through all that ritual, it's even a sin to indulge yourself. No. It is innate. It is natural. Just as you are, your body will draw you closer to the opposite sex. The only language your body is speaking, I need to reproduce myself. That is why it's very dangerous when one person is there and say that, I don't want children. There's something definitely wrong. When you investigate, you would find out that there is something wrong somewhere. There's a reason why this person is saying, I don't want to. Because naturally, everybody wants to reproduce themselves. It's innate. I don't want to make this a racial thing, but how is any race going to survive if they don't have sex? How are they going to survive? And when I say sex, I'm not just talking about all the other kinds of sex that everybody is having. But how is any race going to survive if they don't reproduce itself? I'm not talking about race. I don't want to make it a racial thing. But let me lay down this thing to you. Do you know the population of China right now? The population of China is 1.3 billion, right? the population of Africa is 1.2 billion. I mean, some digits on top of it. The population of black race on the face of this earth is another 1 point something. So when you put together, the black race is heading towards 3 billion of us. Do you know Africa alone can contain the whole world? The African continent. It can contain the whole world. Now, what most of us are not paying attention to is that we are at war of the races. We are at a war of races. Every single race is trying to survive. But they know how the Creator, the Most High, has turned Africa. Listen, He already provided, He made provision before He made us come onto this continent. Because we are but the only continent on the face of the entire earth that can support and sustain its people. That is why everybody is busy coming this way. See how long it's taking them to dig out of this continent, and yet they are still coming for more because we have more. The reason why the Most High made us have more is because the Most High wanted us to populate and dominate. Now the problem is, every single person out there, apart from the black man, is looking to see the demise of the black race. They are doing everything possible to make sure that the black race don't populate itself. Trust me, it is in the water we drink, in the food we eat, in the vaccinations they give us, in the injections they give. They spent millions of dollars trying to do whatever they can to produce contraceptives. Why are they not giving this money to our African brothers and sisters so that they can use this to develop themselves? They can use this to... They don't want that. Because they know if the black men should have everything they need, they are going to outnumber every single race on the face of this earth. They don't want that. They don't want to see that. All they want to see is the survival of their race. So there is nothing therefore wrong with them being racist. The only wrong thing here is that you are not racist. You don't think about your race. You don't think about your people. You don't think about the people that the Most High... You see, it's only human beings. And it's sad to say that the least on this ladder is the black race. That don't take priority in working with each other, working with themselves. Even the birds knows how to work with themselves. The birds are always being birds, and the animals are always being... The crocodiles are moving with the crocodiles, right? The elephants are moving with the elephants. The chimpanzees are moving with the chimpanzees. Who are the black people moving with? You think it's happening just like that? No. They have hands behind the scene that are making sure it is so. I'm telling you. One of the reasons why China is trying to capture everywhere, don't forget, they are trying to rewrite the Bible, right? The Bible prophecy goes for the race that is scattered across the face of the earth. That is the race that the Bible prophecy goes after. Now that's what they've discovered, so they know, okay, the only how we can be at the forefront is to become a race that is scattered across the face of the earth. And that is why they are all over. So in a few years, they are rewriting the Bible. In a few years, the story will come out that, listen, this is the race that is scattered across the face of the earth. We are the people of Scripture. And what are you going to do by then? Because you are not even doing enough to protect your own race. Every other person on the face of the earth is so busy protecting their race, but ourselves, we are too busy marrying every other race. It's like people take pride in having light-skinned children, and I don't mean to offend anybody. I love everybody. It's not your fault to be light-skinned as a child. It's totally not your fault. But what you do from here is your responsibility. It's totally your responsibility. So if they are doing everything to see that their race survive, What are we doing? That is why I said I don't want to make this a racial subject, because I'm a bit sensitive when it comes to this subject, because we are not reproducing ourselves enough. And the minute we stop doing that, our race would go off. It is your responsibility. It is my responsibility. It's either all our men are taken to the prisons, or when our men give birth to their children, they are not responsible enough to take care of them. That. When are we going to wake up to understand that the only how we are going to survive is to reproduce ourselves? And the only how we are going to reproduce ourselves is sex. Not how they portrayed it to be or how nasty they made it to be. But I'm talking about the beautiful sex that the Creator made. That's what I'm talking about. When are we going to wake up to understand that the survival of our race is us making sure we mingle with our own? We mingle. You see, you would only have my respect as a black person when I see you going for another black woman or a black man. You cannot tell me you are so pro-black that you couldn't marry your own race. It does not make sense to me. Well, you don't love us enough. You don't love your race enough. If you do love your race enough, you would make sure you marry your own race. I'm telling you. Some people do that because of low self-esteem. They think they will be better when they... I've gone off subject. I'm sorry. But it's just a very sensitive and a passionate subject. Everybody else care about their race but us. And we've turned sex into something so diabolic. Meanwhile, the Creator created sex to be something beautiful. Well, I've taken enough of your time. I'm going to run away from here. Next week, I'll continue part 2 of this beautiful sex. Stay blessed. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow for Spirit Fridays.